Podcast number 21. SUNAK to shell out over strikes. I'm MachineDaena, podcast person, sales, commercial.
You don't sound very sure.
A very crypto trader. That's what I am this week.
Yeah,
I'm a crypto trader.
The chameleon of different business ideas.
And you are?
I am Andrew Salmon, Coronation Street Extra, reliable.
We got an action-packed podcast this week.
It's
we were
good
struggling to fit all the topics in.
Yeah.
This podcast is being recorded live at twitch.tv/electric_honk.
As always.
So we get the live version. You can come and chat to us if you want to watch it live. We're live every 2 weeks at the moment. Maybe one day we'll do it every week, but 2 weeks feels
I think it's fair to say the live version is slightly more extended because we do cut some material out of the final edit, don't we?
We do.
But, so
then we upload that video up to YouTube,
Yeah.
so you can search for us on YouTube. And then we go on Audible, Spotify, Deezer, Castbox,
Amazon Music,
all of them, iTunes,
yeah. Pocket Cast,
YouTunes, WeTunes, we all tunes. Right, so SUNAK to shell out over strikes. We're going to get into loads of different stuff today. Today we're going to be covering, well, Salmon, do you want to let us know what we're...
Yeah, so as you might have guessed from the title, SUNAK to shell out over strikes. We've got a little bit of politics. We've got Shell Oil Company with their record-breaking profits, and we've got some information about the strikes.
There's been some really odd news in the news lately. Like did you see the thing with the BBC, the sex noises with Gary Lineker?
Yeah.
Was it match of the day?
Yeah, it was FA Cup, wasn't it? It was a Liverpool match, I think. Wolves v Liverpool it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I thought that was just so brilliant. And one of my favourite bits was that it was like a phone from the 90s or something like that.
To the bottom of the chair.
And every time Gary Lineker, for those not in the UK, Match of the Day on the BBC is like the biggest sports show. And every time that Gary Lineker, who's like the top paid BBC TV executive, was speaking about a team, there was sex noises playing in the background. And it was just absolutely brilliant. It was funny to watch.
And those sex noises are the ones that are infamous, especially being sent around like lads' WhatsApp groups where it's like an innocent looking video with like, usually with a guy speaking quite quietly, so you turn the sound up and then you try and listen to it, and then this sex noise,
very
well
loud.
known, it comes out very loud
in the middle of school or something
to
like
the point where I don't trust any WhatsApp video now. I watch them on mute first and see what it is, and then I'll try and watch it with a bit of sound on.
That iconic sound has made me very paranoid. We did actually recently find the original porn for that. Not that we were searching for it, but one of our friends in a WhatsApp group sent us the original, didn't they?
That's right.
So, we managed to find the original porn noise.
I think it's worth saying as well that I think BBC handled it pretty well. Like,
they did, yeah.
The pundits on Match of the Day had a little laugh about it and enjoyed it. And the BBC as an organisation played it down and made a bit of a laugh out of it as well. So that's good.
See, one thing that Marvel has done really well in the last 10 years is inject humour into the Marvel franchise. And it's done so well because of that. And I feel like something like the BBC, which is traditionally incredibly straight-laced, a little bit dry, a little bit boring, if they started just to inject a bit of humour into what they did, I think they'd do much better. I mean, they do pretty fucking well, to be honest, because they take over our TV license money, but still.
I have brought in alcoholic dandelion and burdock, which Daena's just showing to the camera there. This is available in the UK in a spa if you've got a local spa shop. Dandelion and burdock is a traditional accompanying drink to fish and chips or something like that.
It's a classic British drink.
Yeah.
Dandelion and burdock. You may not have heard of it if you're one of our many non-UK listeners.
It's kind of an alcoholic version.
It's a little bit like a licorice Dr. Pepper, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Sort of.
That's how I'd describe it.
Yeah.
And to find an alcoholic version, I thought was pretty unique.
It literally just tastes like pop.
Yeah.
Like soda.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
I like it.
It's great. And it's 4%.
Cheers, mate.
And it's made by Hoopers.
Hoopers, truly British alcoholic refreshment.
It's great, isn't it? Right.
Okay, some other weird news. Did you see... You didn't see this. There was a guy that was fixing a hydraulic toilet in some city centre. I think it was... I don't know where it was. It's somewhere in the north as well. It might have been like Manchester or something. I was actually surprised it was the UK at first, because these aren't very common in the UK, where the urinal comes up from the ground at night time,
right,
and then during the daytime it just sinks back into the ground.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, well, they exist, right? In big city centres, Birmingham, Manchester, London. And this guy was doing routine maintenance, and I guess it just went in whilst he was under it doing maintenance, and he died.
Squashed by a urinal.
That is insane, isn't it?
Jesus.
That's got to be the worst way to die, right?
As if there's no... As if there's no like safety method in place, like if it has any sort of restriction on its way down. Then yeah.
Big red piss button.
What a way to go.
Yeah.
How old was he? Do you know?
I think he was like in his 30s or something like that.
Do you know if he had a family, like kids and stuff?
Probably, yeah. But yeah.
Poor guy.
But it's not just any old urinal, it's the drunk idiots at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
God knows what, sick and piss and shit and everything.
Surely the family will be suing the manufacturers of that or something.
Oh, I think they're in for a few quid. Yeah, definitely. Less intense movie titles. An article on The Poke, and it was based off a tweet that was kind of going semi-viral. And I just thought I'd read some of them out because I miss films, and these just made me laugh quite a lot. So, people have been making movie titles less intense.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
30 fabulously lukewarm award winners. So I'll just try and rattle through as many as I can. Make a movie title less intense. I'll go first. Mission Possible. So you get the gist of it.
Yeah.
Scott Pilgrim versus his small circle of emo friends in the Greater Toronto area. Some like it room temperature.
Yeah.
Roomba Cop. Apocalypse Soon.
I mean, that's only slightly less intense, that one, isn't it?
Die Mildly. One Dalmatian. Night of the Living. It's not the dead bit.
Yeah.
And the Texas Chainsaw Mascara.
That's good. I remember having a conversation during a cricket match with one of my teammates about the title of a film, and I thought, can you imagine? I've never seen this film, but you can only imagine how boring it is just by the title. And the title of the film was The Constant Gardener. And I thought, can you imagine? I was having a little look on YouTube. I'm going to test your knowledge on this. You're a bit of a YouTube supremo.
I wouldn't go that far. I've got 7,000 subscribers.
That's pretty good. Do you know what is the most viewed YouTube video of all time?
Oh, right. It's going to be probably one of the songs. Like, I would guess it'd be like one of the Vivo songs. Maybe like one of the Beyonce ones or something.
Okay. It's actually Baby Shark.
Baby Shark?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And it's had over 12 billion views.
Single video. I'm going to have that song in my head now.
Oh, my God. I mean, what does that say about humanity? Like, the biggest video streaming platform in the whole world, and Baby Shark is being watched more than anything else. Just out of interest, second place is a song called Despacito, which you may remember.
Justin Bieber?
I think so. 8 billion views.
That's quite a big difference between first and second.
I know, Baby Shark smashes it out of the water, doesn't it? And then third is something I've never even heard of before. It's called Johnny Yes Papa. 6.5 billion views. I've never heard of it.
Is it Spanish or something?
No idea. Don't know.
Okay.
Need to look it up after this. That got me thinking about what's been in the news recently about MrBeast. And I'm actually going to confess, I've never watched a single MrBeast video.
Wow.
I've only ever seen his name in the news.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I read today that he was American. I thought his name...
You didn't even know he was American?
No, I thought he might be Scottish because his name's Donaldson or something, isn't it? His real name, like Jimmy Donaldson or something.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
But so he's just paid for 1,000 people to have eye surgery.
And made a video out of it, right?
Yeah. So that video has had 71 million views. So he's got a long way to go before he catches up with Baby Shark. It's quite interesting. He's had a mixed reaction, hasn't he, for that? What is, on the surface, like, how can you criticize anyone for paying for 1,000 people to have eye surgery? So what's your view on it?
I saw some backlash. I saw the video. I've not actually watched the video, but I saw he'd posted a video. You get the title, and like, to be honest, I should watch it. I'm going to watch it because it's fascinating that a YouTuber can even afford to do that, and I guess he does it through sponsors and things like that. That's the genius about MrBeast. It's very rare that he's spending his own money. Often he's spending a company's money, and he gives them exposure in return.
Yeah.
So, and he's grown up, and he's a really awkward character. In general, he's a very, very awkward character, but through doing YouTube, he's become very personable and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure he was always personable, but he's just very nerdy and awkward.
Yeah.
His popularity's kind of snowballed, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years. Like, I remember a couple of years ago, he had like 5 or 10 million subscribers, which is still huge. I mean, that's enough to make you a millionaire.
Yeah.
But they're saying that they think MrBeast will be the first YouTube billionaire.
Wow.
Yeah. And he literally spends millions in production on his videos now. So it's almost like he's like a mini Netflix, if you think about it. And he's got a huge team of editors and production and all the rest of it. And he just comes up with these weird ideas. it's fascinating that he can come up with an idea about just curing people of blindness, which in itself is a mad thing, and make content out of it, which is good because it's also bringing awareness to it. But the internet will always find a way to be negative, no matter what.
Yeah, I agree. And out of interest, that 71 million views for this video, is that his most watched video? Is this like...
No, I think he had one that was the Squid Games. He recreated some of the Squid Games, and that was like hundreds of millions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this isn't like his groundbreaking
moment.
Right?
It could get close to that.
Yeah, because it's covered on national news, isn't it, in the UK at least, and I'm sure it is in America. So there was a tweet in response which I felt like summed up my gut reaction to this quite nicely, and the tweet goes, "It's deeply frustrating to have to rely on a benevolent content king making feel-good videos rather than addressing the root cause of these problems." I think that's how I've always felt about when people start praising Elon Musk for all of the work he does, and then now you've got MrBeast, helping these thousands of people. It's amazing on the surface, like it's so good that they're doing that, but isn't it a shame that we're having to rely on people making their own private wealth and then choosing how they want to help society when all of the money that they're making comes from members of the public?
So I asked you about this earlier, about the follow-up tweets, and you saw one of the follow-up tweets from MrBeast, didn't you? But there was another follow-up tweet. So if you want to just say the tweet that you saw, and then I'll talk about the one that I saw.
MrBeast put out a tweet saying, "Twitter, wouldn't it be great if rich people spent their money on good causes?" And then MrBeast spends a load of money on good causes, helping people's eyesight, and then Twitter responds
negatively.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you bastard, sort of thing.
Basically, you can't do wrong from right.
Yeah, which is a fair point, because I think what he's done is undeniably good.
He put another comment. It was either a comment or a separate tweet, where he said, "It's amazing that governments don't just pay for people for something like blindness that is resolvable in many cases, for governments to just sort that type of thing out, because the return on investment they get from having people in work and paying taxes for their whole life far outweighs the cost of the surgery on an eyeball."
Yeah.
It was really interesting to see how that video went down and all the drama after it. But I also think that the drama that comes helps his success and has over the years.
Yeah,
so I think he courts some of that a little bit, to be honest. But I also think that he is genuinely a nice guy. He comes across as an incredibly nice guy.
Yeah, I've no doubt that he is probably a nice guy. To do something like that, with absolutely no need to do it, even though it does make good content. There's loads of things you could do that make good content where he's not helping 1,000 people. The UK, we've had a general strike.
Because I thought a general strike was where anyone strikes, literally anyone.
It pretty much sector. Yeah, well, no, it wasn't just public sector strikes. It was over 100,000 civil servants, but I think on strike that day was over 500,000 workers throughout many different organisations.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so you've got things like the Royal Mail and trains, which are privatised, who are on strike. But then you've also got teachers, nurses, and much more of the civil service. That was on Wednesday. I joined my local union, my workplace union, for the first time in my life. Took part in a strike.
You was on the picket line.
And I was on the picket line.
With your signs and your and your smiley face and all that stuff.
So I stood on the picket line in the morning, asking any colleagues that walked into office, "Would you be willing to not give your work today and actually go on strike?"
Did you manage to persuade anyone?
No.
Oh, so people had already made their minds up.
Yeah, because it was well established that it was going to happen. People either decided to work from home and not come into the office, and so they don't have to cross the picket line, or they knew that when they were going to get to the office, they would face the picket line. And to be fair, it's not intimidating like in the 80s where you had all the miners shouting scab and throwing bottles at your bus as you went into work and things like that.
Dude, there were hundreds of thousands of people on the streets in London. It was a scary thought. And when I saw the pictures, I was like, yes, this is what this fucking country needs, man.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It really is.
Unfortunately, with the title of our pod, SUNAK to shell out over strikes, it's not looking like it's going to happen. Although I did hear a lord saying that the only way out when the country gets this bad and there's that many people unhappy with their situation, the only way out really is to concede a little bit and actually give them some sort of wage rise. So it's looking like it must be on the horizon at some point.
I do have probably quite a controversial view on this. Mm-hmm. I am all for all people getting pay rises to an extent in line with inflation. So if your costs go up in line with inflation, let's say your costs go up, I don't know, £100, let's say. If the pay rise that you get would give you more than £100 worth of extra money, that then starts to benefit you personally over and above inflation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's say if you got a £200 and let's say a similar percentage pay rise on your cost base, would equal £200, you are £100 better off from having that pay rise, which means you've benefited from inflation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So your disposable income theoretically has gone up.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily, the reason why I'm saying this, you don't necessarily need an inflation pay rise to be able to cover the extra costs.
I'd agree. I think keeping up with inflation is the headline and is the sort of like the top negotiation level that unions are going for, but no one actually expects, because inflation is so high at the minute anyway, no one really expects that. But somewhere in the middle ground would have been acceptable.
But there is a backstop to that as well. There's something else, because also to earn the costs of inflation, because you get taxed, you need to get a bigger wage rise as well. So
that's true.
Let's say for every £1 you earn, you're only seeing 65p of that. You need to earn more of those pounds to cover inflation as well. So those two things battle with each other a little bit.
And then there's the argument that the lower paid in society are actually the more economically active on the high street and in local businesses. And so the fact that even if they did end up with more disposable income than the higher members of society, well, that would never be the case, but even if they did have more disposable income, it would actually be redistributed into the economy and not hoarded like you get
like
with
some of the richer
multimillionaires.
So how did you find the strike? Did you enjoy it? Did it feel good?
You know what I found out in the morning is actually the government code of practice on picket lines, which I think you can actually be arrested for if you break the code of practice, is that you only have 6 members on the picket line, which I find absolutely shocking. I didn't know that was a rule, but you're not allowed more than 6 people outside a workplace entrance to picket the workers going into work.
Wow.
So when you imagine all of the miners' strikes in the UK, where there were literally hundreds, possibly even thousands of miners all shouting abuse at the few that wanted to go to work, that's just not allowed anymore. You can be arrested for that. So I think at my workplace, we had about 15, 16 people on the picket line. Oh,
you were breaking the rules?
No, because there's actually 4 entrances into the building.
I see.
So you
covering all bases, literally.
Yeah. I find that a really horrible anti-union law is restricting the picket line to 6 people.
Yeah. But also basically not policeable as well. I don't think they would be policing that over. If they were really... These aren't mass strikes. Like when you've got 500,000 people striking... Yeah. As a portion of the workforce is fuck all. It's like 5% of the workforce or something like that.
Yeah.
If we had like 10% or 20% of the workforce striking, which is what I thought was a general strike, that kind of scale, there's no way they could police that.
No, that's true. And I think, well, you got to differentiate between the picket line and a strike as in like a rally through a town centre. You know, you can have as many as you want for that, but it's actually standing outside a workplace front door and stopping people going in. Yeah.
I did see Jeremy Corbyn talking about the teachers' strike.
Okay.
And I heard somewhere that the average teacher's wage was 39.5k, 39.5k, which surprised me. I thought it was a lot lower than that.
I thought it was lower than that as well, actually.
But that could also be, I didn't fact check that. That could be wrong. It might be actually a lot lower than that. But Jeremy Corbyn did say that normally people are at sort of 50-50. Some people are against the strike, some people are for it. But basically everyone that they encountered on the teachers' strike were saying go for it, supporting the strikes, which I'm surprised about, because there's a lot of old school sort of Tory types that basically just look for an excuse to moan at commoners.
Well, and also there's quite a lot of the working class that are very anti-union as well. The sort of like right-wing Daily Mail breed. And actually, I experienced that on the picket line.
Really?
We had a fire alarm inspector come along. He was a big, stocky lad with a shaved head. And he was like, "You lot on strike, are you?" And we're like, yeah. 60 grand a year, not enough for you guys then? And we're like, yeah, we wish. And he was like, we should try being a fire alarm engineer. And we're like, what can you say to that? But basically, I think he's complaining because he's one of these people that has the mindset, well, I'm not getting a pay rise, so why should you?
Yeah.
And then also the old school opinion that people in the public sector are overpaid and underworked.
Which really is an old school opinion, because they've been the wages in the public sector have been throttled for so long that is no longer the case. I would be willing to put my knob out on the line. Or maybe my head, I don't know. The public sector average wages are starting to be higher than the private sector. Private sector started to be higher than the public sector.
Oh, they've got to be.
They never used to be.
Yeah.
So it used to be like amazing, like job for life, good wages, great benefits.
Yeah. I suppose the private sector does have a lot more in terms of numbers, like 0 hours contracts, minimum wage, that
which
sort
probably
of thing.
drags it down.
Yeah. I felt like the media coverage of the strikes was, especially when it came to teachers, what an absolute outrage that these teachers are willing to not go to work and make these kids miss out on their education. then I think when you compare that to the celebration of King Charles and having a day off when he's coronated and all the schools are closed, which they absolutely love. And you're happy to watch an old man have like £1 million crown shoved on his head and have a day off school.
Try billion.
Yeah, but when people want to fight for a decent wage, so
which in itself will improve the education system.
Yeah, exactly.
And motivate people. Yeah. It's so narrow-minded to think like that.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. We've also got on the board the Shell profits. Obviously, titled the podcast SUNAK to Shell Out Overstrike. See what we did there? We connected two separate topics into one title. Yeah, this is why we have tens of views every single podcast. Announced today that they've had 32 or 33 billion pounds in profits
in a year.
Which is their highest in their 115-year existence. Shell, of course, making money off the stuff that's in the earth, oil. You just extract it.
It's not even theirs, is it?
It's not even theirs. All of ours. Yeah, and it's just crazy that they can make that much profit at a time where you literally have families that can't heat their home. Yeah, it's mental. I actually did get a text message this week saying, "Oh, we're going to put your direct debit up to £270."
Wow, thanks.
And it was from Shell.
Was it?
Yeah. I just rung them up and I said, "No, you're not." And so anyone out there, just literally ring up and just say, "No, you can do it." But I think it's fair that the UK public should be a bit more careful with their energy. I think that's a good thing that's coming out of this. Yeah. That will potentially massively improve the environment or the environmental impact of companies like Shell. Mm-hmm. But it just baffles me how they can still make such obscene profits without being windfall taxed.
Yeah, and what I don't understand, maybe it's really basic, but I just can't get my head around it. The Russian-Ukraine war is blamed or provided as a reason for such high profits. I just can't understand that. If the price of gas is going up, Shell must be increasing their prices by way more than what they're paying
to make more profit. Yeah.
So how is the war an excuse for that?
I don't think it makes a lot of sense. And also the price of energy wholesale has come down significantly.
But the prices haven't.
The gas price at one point was negative because they couldn't store it all.
And that'll never get passed on.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't... How does it even happen to make so much wealth in 1 year?
No.
It's going to be distributed to the shareholders out in dividends.
A part of me hopes that this is like the elitist oligarchs are doing this so that they can hoard money into the energy companies because it's the only way they can get a lot of money into these companies that, let's face it, in 50 years won't be there if they're going to be on non-renewable energies, so that they can use that money to invest in non-renewables. And if that's a pseudo way of doing this, fine, but I'm doubtful.
Yeah. I did hear one positive spin on it, and that is that a very large amount of pensions, especially in the UK, are probably invested in these sort of energy companies. So the larger their reserves, the more secure our pensions for the future.
Right.
So, that's the only thing we can be thankful for, really.
Yeah. I'd heard a story, sort of came out on the same day today. Obviously, we are the podcast that brings you all of the latest news. Yep. This only came out I think it's due out, this news, actually.
Tomorrow's news.
Tomorrow's news. Yeah, you'll hear about this tomorrow. So poor people that can't afford to pay their energy bills get into arrears. Those arrears then basically result in debt collectors who then can potentially break into your property with a locksmith and fit a meter. The meter in the UK, if you're not from the UK, forces you to put money on via a card, and you have to sort of top up so you have to credit your account with some money. So you do not get electricity unless you top up the account. So it's literally like an on-off switch, really.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why this is really controversial is because the energy companies EDF, British Gas, and a few others, it was actually British Gas that have been mainly in the news because there was an undercover reporter that got a job at the British Gas doing some of these kind of installations of the meters.
Yeah.
And this guy was saying, often he's going into houses where you can see that there are toys that are for a 1 or 2 or 3 year old.
Yeah.
And then you'll see inhalers in the house and stuff like that, and medication and... So these are things, and obviously, that's not going to be every case, but in some cases, that is genuinely poor people that cannot really afford to heat their homes with young children that are basically super vulnerable.
Shocking.
And they break in, they fit these meters, and what I thought was the worst part is that what the energy companies have been doing, including British Gas, is they take the arrears from the amount they top up. So let's say if you top up £10 of electricity, you may only get £3 or £4 of that in electricity, because £6 or £7 of it will go on the arrears. So they're forcing an over excessive arrears payment. So
What
it's
a society.
really squeezing these. That made my heart break a little bit.
I mean, do you not think if like you or any of your friends happened to be prime minister, they'd have so much more compassion and say, right, that's it. Anyone whose like household income is less than 30 grand a year and you're behind with your bills, we're here for you this winter to pay for it.
Well, to me, that's just one of those like bankruptcy situations. It's almost like the bankruptcy should be one of those outs where you can just wipe off any debts, especially if you've got kids under 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
To be fair, Ofgem have come out and said you're breaking the rules. EDF have responded by saying we're going to stop installing them in this way. Obviously, British Gas are going to lose they'll probably get fined and lose a lot of customers over this.
Yeah.
It's just pretty shocking that can happen at the same time that you've got Shell making those types of profits.
Yeah. I've brought in a bottle of alcohol for us, something that you should be able to find, at least in the UK. Quite often you can find it across the world. This one is from Lidl, or is it Aldi? One or the other. Aldi.
It's both the same.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same, aren't they? So it may be available all over Europe, wherever you can find an Aldi. This is our top shelf box that Daena nicely provided for us, and I'll do the big reveal and explain what we've got inside for today.
So this is a nice, lovely wooden box with a big top shelf label on it, and a nice wooden slidey hatch to reveal the bottle.
Beautiful. There we are. Let me give it a little shake. It says shake to shimmer.
Oh, it's an Aldi Special. The Infusionist. That's the same company that did the Parma Violet.
That's right, yeah.
That we had about 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Nice. So this is... Well, I'll let you...
Yeah, so the Parma Violet one was actually all right. It tasted the Parma Violet. It's a little bit sort of...
Chemically,
yeah. So this one is a gin liqueur, but this one is sticky toffee pudding flavour. And it is a very sort of sticky brown colour. It looks like sticky toffee sauce that you might pour over your sticky toffee pudding cake. And when you shake it, it's got a lovely little magical shimmer to it. So it's from Aldi, 20%, lovingly distilled in only small batches. This delicious gin liqueur is bursting with the rich and indulgent flavours of sticky toffee pudding.
Has that got some hints of glitter in there, Salmon?
It looks like it, doesn't it? I think that's what's giving it
We
the
are
shimmer.
literally about to drink glitter. But don't worry, it tastes like sticky toffee pudding.
So if it's nice, it could be one to recommend.
So it's almost like a dark... It's the same colour piss you have when you've not drunk any water and you've had a massive night out. It's like dark orange coloured. My piss actually does also have glitter in as well, so it looks very similar.
The smell, though, have you smelled it?
Oh my god, that is the best smelling alcohol ever.
It smells of sticky toffee pudding.
It's exactly like sticky toffee pudding.
Yeah, that's
really poignant, like fresh out of the oven. Right, dude.
Should we give it a drink?
Cheers. Oh, that is rich. It is nice. It's got that smoky feel to it. Yeah,
it's not perfect.
It's not.
It could be better, but it is nice.
I imagine with a little bit of gin or maybe some other mixer, that would be.
Well, it's a gin liqueur already.
Yeah,
but
I like it.
Yeah, I would have a few of them on a night out.
100%. Yeah.
Infusionist from Aldi, sticky toffee pudding flavour.
Yeah.
Go and get yourself some.
We'll break that out at the annual general meeting.
Yeah. That's top shelf done. What's next?
I want to talk about the Doomsday Clock because this is something that was set up by The Bulletin, which is some publication that's been running for decades and decades. Set up in 1947. And 1947, if you didn't know, was just a year or two after Nagasaki and Hiroshima were nuked.
Yeah.
Basically, there was a vision of the future where everyone would have nukes and they could destroy the Earth. And lo and behold, that's kind of what it is like now.
Yeah.
So they set up this Doomsday Clock. And the idea is that the time to 12, midnight, is the closer to the midnight that you get, the closer we are to the Earth being destroyed by some sort of event. And typically they say that it's probably nukes that's going to do that.
Yeah.
The clock has recently been put forward closer to midnight to 90 seconds towards midnight from 100 seconds. So, I mean, it was already pretty fucking close.
Yeah, okay.
And I was reading a little bit about this thing. So it was set up by someone, I don't know the guy's name, and then it was taken over by some sort of like Bulletin Society, something or other.
Yeah.
And like scientific types kind of are in control of this. It's only been changed 25 times in that period of time. And the furthest away that it's been from midnight, I think was 15 minutes. And that was in 1991 when the Cold War Treaty was signed.
I was going to say, so can the clock go backwards then?
Yes.
So if all of a sudden the whole world agreed peace treaties and all went to green energy.
Nuclear disarmament, that would obviously be cause to
So the clock would go back.
But clearly Putin's rhetoric about warheads. It was actually this week, Boris Johnson said that he got threatened by Putin.
Yeah.
Basically, he came out and said, so the people that are not from the UK might not know this, but Boris Johnson this week came out and said, Putin threatened me. He told me that it would only take a minute to basically kill him with nukes. That's pretty frightening.
And no one believed Boris today, I think. And I think people were saying, actually, for the first time since these two people have been prominent in our public lives, this is probably the first time I don't believe Boris over Putin.
Yeah. So I just thought that was a really interesting thing. Basically, we're all fucked.
There's a Facebook group called 50 Shades of Halifax.
Right.
And it basically picks up all of the local ridiculous things that are going on in around Halifax and makes
Halifax, the place.
The place, that's right.
I thought it was the banking brand.
No, it's Halifax. It's a small town in Yorkshire. It's actually where Happy Valley is set. If you've got a BBC iPlayer, watch Happy Valley. It's incredible. 50 Shades of Halifax. There was a story on there. It's actually a couple of years old, I think, and it's recently resurfaced and gone viral. So people may have heard of it already. But I'm going to read out the Facebook thread, and essentially we've got somebody reporting something in the group, and then you've got people responding in the comments, and the comments get a bit silly. The original post says, "Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I've just found a cat in the road. It's been hit by a car and it's died. I'm looking for its owner. So if anyone on High Road, Well Lane or near is missing a black and white cat, I think it's male, please can you contact me? Or if anyone knows how to dispose of a dead cat not belonging to myself, that will also be helpful information. Thanks in advance." This guy called Philip Sklodowska, he replies, "Does he answer to the name of Tomo? Mine's missing 2 days now. He's usually an indoor cat." And somebody replied, "Well, it won't answer as it's dead." And then he puts, this Philip, "Oh, sorry, I see. You got a picture of when he's alive? I'll see if it's my cat." Somebody else replies, "Why would you take a picture of the dead cat? Surely you would put up a picture of your cat, then ask the question, is it this one? This would be so much quicker and cause no distress to everyone on Facebook having to look at a poor defenseless dead cat." Then somebody says, "Oh my God, this is the best thread ever." Philip comes back and says, "Still no cat, so I can't take a picture. I'll Google a similar one and post."
So he doesn't have a picture of his cat?
No. So he Googles a similar picture of his cat. And he posts this, which I'll show you. And beneath it, he puts, "Like that, but a cat."
For those not watching, basically there's a picture of a black and white sheepdog, but like that, but a cat.
But a cat.
It's got to be trolling, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And then everyone's just got I think everyone realised then it's a joke. That made me laugh. So that's kind of resurfaced recently. And
Michelle Mone is a lord. For those that don't know, without going into all the details, because we've done it before.
Not a lady.
A lady? Yeah, lady.
Version, yeah.
But she's in the House of Lords, and she's probably backhanded, appointed, and they're not elected in the House of Lords. Allegedly has profited from some dodgy PPE equipment COVID contracts through the period of COVID. So, and this is a sort of a fairly attractive young lady. You don't often get lords and ladies that are attractive. They're normally like
got grey hair,
fat,
wrinklies,
old, on their last legs, lords, just coasting their way out of life on their caviar.
Yeah.
Basically what's happened is Led by Donkeys, which is a famous group in the UK that sort of calls out bad politics. Yeah. At the moment it's Tories, of course. Led by Donkeys located Michelle Mone's yacht somewhere in I don't know, it was like Monaco or I don't know where it was, maybe Dubai or something. Yeah. And they renamed it something
Pandemic.
Yeah, the Pandemic Profiteer. That's what they renamed her yacht. They literally just walked up to it and put a really nice sign on it, like gold letters. I thought that was pretty cool. It's just like these guerrilla marketing techniques that these groups use. It kind of genius.
It's great, but I've got no doubt that Michelle Mone has not got an ounce of guilt over the hundreds of millions that she would have made from the PPE. No. There was also something you sent me a week or so ago about another Tory donor who made tens of millions from the PPE that was unfit for purpose, and then was paid another 4 million to dispose of it. I mean, what is going on? And then you hear that Sunak's not willing to put up the taxes or help any of the sort of poorly paid civil service and poorly paid workers.
I was actually surprised they put up the taxes this week. They've decreased the tax threshold for the upper tax limit from 150,000 to 125,000. So that now means in the UK you have different tax bandings.
Yeah.
So if you earn a low amount, you don't pay any tax, and then over a certain amount that you earn, you'll pay 20%.
Yeah.
And then over the excess, and then you get to a certain point and it's 45%.
Yeah.
And then there's a final one which is I think 50%. Is
Yeah.
that right? That 50% threshold used to be 150,000. Anything over 150,000. Now it's 125,000.
Oh, right. So
So-
if you're on 125,000, you're now paying more tax than you
On
were
anything
previously.
over
Yeah,
125. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought that's actually one of the first respectable things that I've seen the
Yeah.
Tories do.
I mean, you can imagine people at that end of the wage scale are very close to being in a position of having offshore tax accounts, like tax-free bank accounts in Switzerland. Or,
If they weren't, they will be now.
yeah.
There was actually polls that have been done in the UK. Boston and Skegness constituency was the only constituency when polled that came out as being still not regretting Brexit. Every other, and I mean absolutely every other constituency in the UK has polled and voted that, well, within the means and restrictions of the poll,
Yeah.
that they regret Brexit.
Wow.
What's your take on that? I mean, do you think that they will lobby to go back into the EU at some point?
I don't think Labour would risk having that as a policy until after a general election. I think they need to secure their place in power first and then test the waters. Things like that are useful, though. I've heard some politicians in the past talking about flying the kite, where they'll put things out into the media not directly linked to the party and see what the public reaction,
is. Flying the kite. I like it.
Yeah, and I wonder if, as we get closer to an election, if we won't hear more stories about rejoining the EU and things like that, and they'll be used to gauge the public reaction, and then you'll see whether it becomes Labour policy or not. But
Yeah.
I think it's too much of a divisive issue to make it as public.
I did
policy.
actually fly the kite recently with my wife on
Did you?
something.
Go on. What was that?
For 9 months now, I've been talking about maybe getting a £2,500 camera, and it's got to the point where I think she could probably just about stomach the aggro of me spending that money. And today, I took the plunge. I bought the camera. We're about to have an upgrade on the next podcast.
Yeah, I'm going to see Dana in high definition now.
And a black eye. So yeah, I just thought it
you're
was
making
really-
all millions out of crypto anyway, aren't you? So
Well, I don't know about that. Billions. Yeah, so I just thought it was really interesting with the Brexit regret thing. It basically, the whole country now is saying, I mean, it's not the same to say you regret coming out of EU and we want to go back in the EU. They are two very different things, but it looks like it's going that way.
yeah, I'm surprised by that, because I do think that when in such a divisive issue, once you're entrenched in your beliefs, it's quite hard to change your mindset and say, you know what, actually,
It's
I think I was wrong about that. Yeah, and actually, I'm surprised that the whole country pretty much has said, yeah, I do regret it, actually.
I think if there was a really obvious benefit from Brexit that the Tories could bang the drum against, they've not had anything. There's not even been like a bronze bullet, let alone a silver bullet.
Yeah.
Right? So whereas all the negatives are so stark and obvious.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just one of those issues that the public, especially those that voted leave, really do feel a bit stupid over that they've been duped.
Possibly. And they are probably feeling the actual financial effects of it now.
Yeah.
And it's starting to hit home, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is sad. Goose news. We will actually get a jingle, won't we, at some point?
we say this every podcast.
Goose Goose Duck smashes Steam player records. You play games on Steam, don't you?
I do, yeah.
Have you heard of the game Goose Goose Duck?
I've heard of it, yeah. I don't know what
that's
it is,
good.
though.
So it's this free-to-play game, which is very similar to Among Us.
Among Us, yeah.
Has had a peak of over 500,000 players in one day, making it the third most popular game on the Steam platform.
Wow.
The game attributes the success to the power of K-pop, as it was streamed by BTS member Kim Tae-hyung and has since been huge in both China and Korea, causing the game servers to crash earlier this week.
I didn't quite catch the name.
Kim Tae-hyung.
Nice.
The game's description reads as follows: a game of social deduction where you and your fellow geese must work together to complete your mission. Keep an eye out for those malicious mallards and other birds who have infiltrated your team and will do anything to stop you. And that is today's Goose News.
That was cool. It's you again for the headline.
Oh, headline. Okay, so I've got 3 headlines for you, all pretty ridiculous, and you choose one. I've got one which I hope you choose, but I won't say which one it is. So, number 1. Footballer puts finger into rival player's anus during Sunday league game. Number 2. I blew off the butcher for his last pigs in blankets. Then my drunk hubby stuck them up his arse. Number 3. That's an actual news headline. Can you believe it?
God.
Number 3. Woman stopped at airport while wearing butt plug containing boyfriend's ashes.
Why would you get your boyfriend's ashes turned into a butt plug? I mean, at least I suppose it's got a use after that, but
yeah, that's true.
And then, do you know what I need to do is just go to the local media and talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the second one. I'm interested to hear about that. Is that the one you wanted me to go with?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I blew off the butcher for his last pigs in blankets.
Can we
then
just
my drunk hubby stuck them up his arse?
Can we explain for the non-British listeners what a pig in blanket is?
I think it actually explains in the article.
Oh, okay.
The pig industry is facing a swine of a crisis. Thanks.
Open the article with a great pun.
Thanks to a shortage of abattoir staff and hold-ups in the supply chain caused by the Chinese death plague, which I think they mean COVID.
COVID, yeah.
The supply of butchered hogs is facing a logjam, and of course that meant bad news for fans of pigs in blankets. Made from sausages wrapped in bacon, pigs in blankets are doubly susceptible to the shortages of oinker flesh. Mums went to the extreme measures to get their hands on a treat for Christmas dinner table, but few went to the lengths that Doreen Matthews did. Part of a scrum of housewives scrambling to get their hands on the last dozen pigs in blankets at her local Birmingham butcher, Doreen went the extra mile. The 47-year-old sucked off the butcher to make sure he sold her mouth-watering piggy delicacies. Returning home, spunky-mouthed in triumph on Christmas Eve. She put the
Have you read this article?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to read the article, man.
It's too good. She put the pigs in blankets in the fridge ready for unveiling at the Christmas Day feast. Alas, Doreen had not reckoned on quite how drunk her 49-year-old hubby Watkin would get during his Christmas Eve revels.
No.
Woken in the wee small hours by a crashing in the kitchen, fuming Doreen marched downstairs to read the riot act to her husband of 20 years.
She's cleaned her mouth out.
Yeah. But mild annoyance turned to blind fury at the scene that greeted her. For naked from the waist down, sozzled Watkin was poised to insert the last of the prize pigs in blankets up his arse. Doreen raged, "That drunken cunt has tested me over the years, but this took the biscuit." I yelled, "Watkin Matthews, what the fuck are you doing?" The daft cunt just looked at me, cross-eyed with drink, and slurred, "It's not what you think." His fingers were all covered in shite and pig fat. I just lobbed a pan at him and he started to cry. After all, I did get hold of them. Christmas was ruined. Doreen explained, "When there were no pigs in blankets for Christmas dinner, my dad said, 'Doreen, where's the pigs in blankets?' He's 76, and telling him that I had to throw them out because Watkin had shoved them up his arse would have finished him off. What with his dicky kidneys." There we go. I'll leave it at that.
Last time I revealed on Facebook that I have a bit of a soft spot for police articles that put a wanted poster out for certain members of the public. And we obviously had the Greg's Man on last one. So I do have an article, a fresh one. And this is one that I saw recently, about a week ago. This is Dale Poppleton from the Liverpool Echo News. 41 is wanted in connection with a serious offence.
Okay.
He is described as a white male, medium build and 6'1" tall. He is very distinctive due to the fact that he has half an ear, brackets right side. He is last seen in East Yorkshire, but has connections throughout the north of England. Extensive inquiries have been carried out to locate him, but he is deliberately evading police. And basically this guy, he's got half of one ear, he looks like he's smashed, he's got lazy eyes.
You can guarantee he's a criminal, can't you? Look at that.
Pretty much. But anyway, of course, in true form, this has gone viral.
All the comments section.
All of the comments. Of course, Liverpool Echo, definitely not baiting the British public, have said anyone who sees Poppleton is asked to not approach him and call the police immediately. So there's the usual stuff of tagging and all the rest of it. And I'm going to read some of the comments, some of the top comments.
Go on then.
Police have been advised to sneak up on him if they find him, so he hopefully won't ear them Been on the run since New Year's Eve. Apparently, this bloke's a musician too. I've heard his catchphrase is, I'll play it by ear.
Wait.
Bit tenuous, but he looks eerie. His nickname is 18 months because he's only got an ear and a half left. Saw him in the pub, offered to buy him a pint. He replied, nah, mate, I'm all right. I've got one ear.
Very good. I've been coming up with some ideas for new businesses. So, you know my dislike of having a poo away from home, work toilets or any public toilets.
It has to be at home for you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't like the public surroundings, but occasionally it has to happen. Well, I came up with an idea.
Why have you got some toilet roll on there?
No, that's my tissue just in case I need to blow my nose.
All right, okay.
Nothing to do with the toilets.
Just for the listeners here, as he said, he was talking about taking a shit, he slapped this hanky that's next to it. I'm like, what are you doing with that?
This is what I brought from the toilet. Basically, whenever I do end up having to go for a number 2 in either a work or public environment,
yeah,
I'm always disgusted by something. There's like random stains or like marks on the wall, and you think,
or disgusted by your own poo.
Well, usually from things that other people left behind. I just think, how filthy can some people be?
Yeah.
And particularly, there's one of the cubicles at work, and there's something dangling down.
Just double check.
This
is a business idea.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know if it can be a business idea. I'll come to you for the expertise. Anyway, so my plan was a Twitter account. I need to come up with a name, but of like disgusting bogs, and people just upload rank public toilet things. Because quite often you'll go into a public toilet and there'll be horrific skid marks at the bottom, or like bits of shit floating around, or rank stains on the walls. I just think if people can upload photos of that onto this Twitter account, I reckon it's got the potential to capture the public's imagination.
100,000 followers.
I think it probably
easily
could. How could I turn that into a business if I reached that stage with that many followers? Start advertising.
I think it's got to be advertising. You've got to visit some of these places, I think, probably, right, and maybe clean them. Yeah. Another idea is that you could change them. Like, you could redo the artwork in there, unless it's disgusting shit artwork, in which case.
No, but what I mean is, once you've reached a stage where you've got a Twitter account with 100,000 followers, how does that make you any money? Do you just sell it to someone, or what? Or does Twitter offer you advertising on that Twitter feed?
I don't think you get advertising. No, I mean, you can get memberships, but I don't know who's paying for a membership to that. To be honest,
yeah.
So you've not thought this through, have you?
It's not particularly business idea.
I think you'll get there.
Yeah,
with it,
I think it's got potential, though, hasn't it? Yeah. To capture the public's imagination.
Absolutely.
So that's one, and another one is
one of my favourite Twitter accounts is the State of LinkedIn. And it's all these inspirational shithead posts from like CEOs that are like, I've just woken up at 5 a.m. and taken my cool bath, and like ice bath. And then I stepped into my Ferrari and drove to work. And then I thought, fuck it, I'm going to give everyone 6 years off work today. All that kind of shit.
Exactly. And I reckon Disgusting Bogs is a better one.
That's the name. Disgusting Bogs.
My other one, I was thinking, there's some songs that football fans sing, and when you hear the football fans singing it, it's better than the original. Like, You'll Never Walk Alone.
Yes.
You hear Anfield singing that, get goosebumps. It's amazing.
Yeah.
The Ajax fans, they sing Three Little Birds by Bob Marley, and again, sounds incredible, better than the original. And a slightly quirky one, Hibs in Scotland, they sing a song by the Proclaimers called Sunshine on Leith, and if you listen to that, it's better than the original. And I just thought, an album of football fans singing some pop songs, and I can just imagine how great they might sound. Like, you imagine like Westlife, Flying Without Wings, but sung by a whole stadium football crowd.
So real proper pop songs, but sung by, okay.
And I reckon it would sound, I think it would be amazing to listen to.
Wow.
Just hearing like 70,000 football fans, like, you know, Butch, alpha male, like, we're flying without wings. And I think an album of tunes sung by a stadium of football fans would be amazing.
Wow.
And that's my business idea.
I feel like the PR piece for that is that a load of them go onto Britain's Got Talent.
Yeah.
And then it's halfway through the performance at the crescendo chorus, it then just puts on the big screen the stadium singing the song.
You get some football thugs, like maybe 20 or 50 on the stage.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the video footage comes on of the other 70,000.
Yeah, and then that's it. You've got billions of views and listens.
Oh, let's do it.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my favourite in terms of money. But in terms of virality, the first one is the one.
Yeah, we could link the two somehow, couldn't
I'm
we?
sure we could. Yeah. This week's Pork Scratchings is Universe 25. The Universe 25 experiment is one of the most terrifying experiments in the history of science, which, through the behaviour of a colony of mice, is an attempt by scientists to explain human societies. The idea of Universe 25 came from the American scientist John Calhoun, who created an ideal world in which hundreds of mice would live and reproduce. Mm-hmm. More specifically, Calhoun built the so-called Paradise of Mice, a specially designed space where rodents had abundance of food and water, as well as a large living space.
Okay, yeah.
In the beginning, he placed 4 pairs of mice that in a short space of time began to reproduce, resulting in their population growing rapidly. Mm-hmm. However, after 315 days, their reproduction began to decrease significantly. When the number of rodents reached 600, a hierarchy was formed between them, and the so-called wrenches appeared. The larger rodents began to attack the group, with the result that many males began to collapse psychologically. As a result, the females did not protect themselves and in turn became aggressive towards their young, and as time went by, the females showed more and more aggressive behaviour, isolation elements, and lack of reproductive mood. There was a low birth rate and at the same time an increase in mortality in the younger rodents. Then, a new class of male rodents appeared, the so-called beautiful mice. They refused to mate with the females or to fight for their space. All they cared about was food and sleep. At one point, beautiful males and isolated females made up the majority of the population. According to Calhoun, the death phase consisted of 2 stages, the first death and the second death. The former was characterized by the loss of purpose in life beyond the mere existence, no desire to mate, raise young, or establish a role within society. As time went on, the juvenile mortality reached 100%, and reproduction reached 0. Among the endangered mice, homosexuality was observed. At the same time, cannibalism increased, despite the fact that there was plenty of food. 2 years after the start of the experiment, the last baby of the colony was born. By 1973, he had killed the last mouse in Universe 25. John Calhoun repeated the same experiment 25 times, and each time the result was the same.
Whoa.
Calhoun's scientific work has been used as a model for interpreting social collapse, and in his research serves as a focal point for the study of urban sociology. We are currently witnessing direct parallels in today's society. Weak, feminized men with little to no skill and no protective instincts, and overly agitated and aggressive females with no maternal instincts.
Wow.
How fascinating is that?
That's unbelievable. I was just going to say before you made that point at the end that you can see that reflected in modern society, can't you?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Absolutely amazing.
There's no suggestion of what the answer is, really, because I guess the part of the issue is the alpha males, part of the issue is the demasculinized males, and together it just forms a horrific society. And what's the way out?
So my thinking there was immediately like, well, what if you just gave people an abundance of food and, like, let's say money to do what? Would society collapse if there's no, like, real purpose?
Yeah.
So I suppose it's for society to find that purpose. If there is no purpose, and sometimes that could be a negative purpose. If that doesn't exist, then does society collapse? There needs to be some sort of purpose. Back in the olden days, it's religion. These days, it's economy and money and materialistic and work. I don't know what the future will be, but yeah.
Makes you think, like, so many people, especially like lefty sort of like conspiracy theory or sort of creative types, say, you're born and you're raised to join the rat race and you spend your life trapped in work. But actually, what if without work you lose a sense of purpose of life?
I've never thought of it like that.
And actually, work is a positive thing. And you might feel trapped in your employment for 30, 40 years, however long you work for, but actually, without it, society would collapse.
Yeah, maybe. It's interesting.
Mason Greenwood, Man United future superstar.
Breaking news, this is only a few hours ago this was announced.
His girlfriend recorded video footage of him verbally
abusing
her, like
being very aggressive.
Awful. Yeah.
I was
horrible to watch.
Uncomfortable listening to that.
And then she posted pictures of a lot of bruises and marks that she had on her body, which she alleged were by Mason Greenwood.
Pretty obvious that something isn't quite right there, you know.
And that was quite a long time ago now, wasn't it? So I heard that the investigation took a very long time. Like rape cases and domestic abuse, I think, are notoriously hard to prove anyway. And with this being such a high-profile one, I think the police were very cautious about making sure it was the right decision. Plus, you'd imagine Greenwood's got the top defence lawyers in the world.
Yeah.
I heard that his girlfriend eventually, within the last year and a half, has forgiven him and got back with him.
What?
And dropped the allegations.
I did not know that.
But the police then had to determine whether there was enough public interest to pursue the investigation despite the victim dropping the allegations. Wow. So they did pursue the investigation and it has now been dropped, but they haven't explained why it's been dropped, have they?
They did explain why.
Oh, did they?
I read an article today where they've explained that it was a really difficult decision that they came to. And here's the weird thing, right? They were almost apologetic about the fact that they were dropping the case, which I don't think is right, because if you're dropping it for legitimate reasons, you shouldn't have to apologise for it. But they basically said they've got a duty of care to the public because key witnesses have dropped out, that they now don't feel like they'll be able to convict him. Yeah. So it's essentially become a waste of public funds for them to fund that case.
When they say key witnesses, then presumably that's the girlfriend.
That's what I thought, yeah. I mean, my view on that is, before what you just said, I thought, well, they've just paid her off $1 million or $2 million. And my wife was shocked when I said that. It's like, well, then I thought, well, I tried to explain to her, I was like, if you've been raped and you're in that situation, obviously you want justice, but justice, all right, it might give you some closure, and I'm sure it will help with the mental health side of things, but ultimately, if someone offers you £1 million or £2 million or £3 million or whatever it is for something to go away, it's very difficult to turn that down.
Absolutely. And then you don't know what's going on behind the scenes as well. You don't know if Mason Greenwood has gone to counselling, therapy, and actually been fully made aware of the significance of his actions, and actually he's decided that he has to mature and work on himself, and apologise to the girlfriend. Said, here's £1 million, here's £3 million.
I'll be honest. When I saw those videos, I thought, what an absolute scumbag. Yeah. Sometimes you just get that feel, don't you, that someone is a total pleb. Yeah. And I got that impression. So I didn't realise they got back together though. That's
what I've heard. Yeah. White cards. What you tell me about them? What happened there?
So this was a couple of weeks ago, I think a week or two ago. So it's not like fresh off the press, but or white hot off the press. Nice. There. But yeah, one of the referees gave out the first ever white card. So we obviously have the yellow card, which is a cautionary warning. Yep. 2 yellows, you get an automatic red. Yep. You can also get an automatic red if someone just presents that straight up front. Yep. If the foul or offence is bad enough on a pitch. A white card, if you didn't know, was when you've done something that is of good sportsmanship, and they basically reward you with a white card. You don't get anything for it, but it's an acknowledgement from the referee that they appreciate what you've done. But it's like a stadium-wide acknowledgement. When this happened, obviously it was all over the news, and the point of it was that the refs in football do get so badly disrespected when you compare it to something like rugby or even like tennis and so on and so forth. Although tennis
tennis is a bit dodgy,
bit of stick. So I wonder if they're just trying to get that respect back in football on the pitch.
Yeah, well, I think it puts them more in the position of like a teacher or something, doesn't it? It's like, really well done there. That was very good. And I hate the way
here's your gold star.
Yeah, and actually, I think good behaviour should be expected and not rewarded as like, that was really good. I'd like to see that again. It's like, it should be normal. It should be not something that's
I do agree.
praised.
However, it isn't normal. Yeah. And I feel like if refs are given a means to bring that a little bit more public exposure. Yeah. Because I imagine a situation where you could have like a fair play league where it's incentivized with like a £1 million bonus. Yeah. Should it have to be incentivized? No. But if by doing it, the means to the end is that there's just a lot more respect in football. It's easier to watch, better to watch.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it's the referee's position to hand out acknowledgements of good behaviour, but I think there could be something in that idea of having like a fair play league where actually maybe the referees at the end of the season have a little league system where they say these are the teams that have shown me the most respect over.
Well, there is a fair play for if you get like not
the least
many
yellow cards.
Yeah, but it's literally like you've offended the least rather than you've acted well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there should be a sort of like referee's recognition award or something.
But I also think about children that are being brought up watching football. If you're 6, 7, 8 years old and you see white cards being handed out, and that is a mark of respect, is that likely to encourage a generation of more respectful sportsmen?
Yeah, it'd be interesting, that, actually.
We've also got the transfer window.
Transfer window is now closed.
Sure.
As they always say. Chelsea spent 288 million in January.
What? That's like half of the total amount of all clubs, right? Because it was
more
a record.
than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they spent the majority of it, to be fair. So that also happens to be more than the German Bundesliga, the Italian Serie A,
put together,
Spanish La Liga, and the French Ligue 1. All of the clubs in those leagues, all accumulated
combined,
together,
wow.
spent less than Chelsea.
That is insane.
Yeah, they bought Mudryk, this like guy from Shakhtar Donetsk who was like desperate to join Arsenal, tweeting how much he loves Arsenal and all that sort of stuff, and then ended up at Chelsea, probably for the money. And they also bought, on the last few minutes of the transfer window, Enzo Fernandez, who played
for
fantastic.
107 million, right?
Yeah, who played awesome for Argentina in the World Cup.
Yes. But not worth 107 million.
I mean, no one is really. Apparently, Chelsea found this loophole where they're giving players such long contracts that actually, according to the financial fair play rules, which means you can't spend more than your club earns, because they spread the costs out over so many years. They get, there's like a little loophole there.
Very clever.
And UEFA are shutting down that loophole at the end of January. I think they just have shut that loophole. So Chelsea made the most of it in this last window. Arsenal signed Trossard from Brighton and Jorginho from Chelsea.
Great signing, Trossard, because he's started to play pretty well for Brighton.
Yeah.
And what, 27 million or something?
Yeah, he's a good player. Arsenal can't really do any wrong at the minute. They're just buying the right players for the right positions.
Yeah, was it you that said, or it might have been someone else, that still thinks that Man City is likely to win the league, even though Arsenal is like 7 points ahead with a game in hand?
Gary Neville's been saying that all season, and he won't back down from it.
To be fair, City are great at the back end of the season.
Yeah, and there's such a big squad compared to Arsenal that if anyone's going to tire, it's going to be Arsenal. But we'll see. Liverpool signed Gakpo. He played really well in the World Cup, but hasn't done a lot so far at Liverpool, but should be a good player.
Yep.
Man United signed Burnley and Besiktas striker Weghorst, who's just a bit of a lump. The thing is with
that's a very Sunday League term that you just used there, mate.
I think the thing is, because United are up for sale, to round off the pod, the last bit on the board, it says, is Will still? And that is the question, is Will still? So there is a gentleman called Will Still, and he is the manager of a French football club called Reims, Reims. They're 11th in the league, unbeaten in 5. And his history is incredible, and I reckon you'll be able to associate with him quite nicely. So at age 17, he decided to focus on becoming a football coach due to his love of Championship Manager and Football Manager.
I can already relate to this.
Exactly, yeah. And so his first job in that area was he became the assistant manager of Preston under-14s.
Okay.
And then trained as a video analyst and got a job at a Belgian second division club and helped get them promoted to the top division, where he later then got a really good job at a Belgian club called Standard Liège, who are quite well known.
Yeah.
So he was
like
a video...
top 6 club, probably.
Yeah, so he was video analyst for them. Then he got another job at a Dutch team as a video analyst / assistant manager. Eventually became manager. When the manager got sacked, he got caretaker manager, won 7 games in a row. But then after 60 days, he was demoted to the assistant manager again because he didn't have the correct UEFA coaching badges. He was essentially just a guy that loved Football Manager and had gone from job to job without ever getting any qualifications.
Oh, shit.
He got offered a job at Reims in France's top division as caretaker manager in the end because he was assistant manager. His manager got sacked. He got given the job. He went 5 games unbeaten and got the full-time job. So he's the full-time Reims manager without any qualifications. So... every game that Reims play, because they field a manager without qualifications, they get fined £22,000 every game. And,
what?
Yeah. And they're continuing to employ Will Still as manager because he's gone 13 games unbeaten and most recently drawing 1-1 away at PSG.
It sounds like some sort of like meme, doesn't it? But man, if it's working,
fairy tale, isn't it?
It really is. Shit. So they've paid. So in 31 games, they've paid what's that? 660.
13 games. 13
13.
Games.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
13 games, unbeaten in all games, drawing away at PSG most recently.
Jesus.
£22,000.
That really is a fair tale. And is he quite young still? Or?
Yeah, I think it said he's in his early 30s, like 31, 32 or something.
Jesus.
Yeah. And he's
good.
never played professionally. He's played for like semi-professional clubs around Europe and stuff. But yeah, he's just followed his career as trying to get job to job as unqualified.
It just goes
coach.
to show, though, doesn't it? I mean, like, if you can bring something different to the table, something that's a different analytical approach can also work.
I think he's one to watch. Imagine if he is that good.
Yeah,
with his football manager experience,
just
and he gets the badges,
Premier
he could get a Premier League job, couldn't he?
Yeah,
Quite
absolutely.
easily.
Yeah, stick him in at Burnley or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to go up this season.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Listen out for the name
So
Will Still.
Is Will still? I'd say
the answer is he is.
Yeah, I'd say Will is still in the job.
Well, we've been going for an hour and a half, Daena. So should we wrap up?
Sorry in advance, Liam. This was a very. To be fair, we've had a month off, so we had a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
And also, we did drone on a little bit. So, well, I've been MachineDaena.
I have been Andrew Salmon, Coronation Street Extra.
Thanks for listening. That's the end of the podcast. We'll be back
done.
again in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Don't forget to check us out on twitch.tv/electric_honk for the live. Sub us on YouTube. Check us out on Spotify, Deezer, iTunes, Audible, everything.
Messages on Twitter, whatever.
Send us an email. Fax us.
Yeah. Carrier pigeon.
All right.
Bye.
See you later. Cheerio.